Welcome back to another episode of Point Forward Podcast. Myself, Andre Iguodala, my main man, Evan Turner.
What's up? What's up?
It's a trending topic all summer for us. We was gonna call it the Warriors Week. We might have called it the Warriors Month, but it's turned into the Warriors Summer with another impressive season. Got a very special guest with us. Y'all welcome Governor, owner of the Golden State Warriors, Joe Lacob.
Hi, Andre. Evan.
How you doing? Thanks for joining us.
This is the first podcast like this that I've done. So.
Oh, really?
Yes.
We feel special. We feel
Perfect.
special.
I've been asked by other people to do them, and I have no reason not to do them. I've just been busy.
You've been busy collecting the two things that are perfectly aligned.
Yeah, hardware.
Above your head.
Hardware.
How's it feel to be a four-time champ?
My God, how's it feel for you? It's pretty amazing.
I mean, yeah, it's good.
I mean, it's just a little surreal, and to be honest with you, I'm not sure it's entirely set in yet.
Mm-hmm.
I've been so busy, trying to. I've had I don't know if you know this, but I've had really bad back pain. I'm having surgery tomorrow morning, literally at 6 o'clock
in the
morning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so trying to get through all these games and sitting and standing, it's been tough. And then I had to go to New York this week for labor meetings, and it's just been like I've had no time to enjoy
right.
the victory, and I'm really looking forward to having a little time to enjoy it. But it feels great. It's an amazing achievement by our players, you being one of them. And I just can't say how proud I am of the whole organization, and certainly the team and the coaches. Amazing.
So let's take it all the way back. Before you were owner of the team with Peter Gruber, you were actually part owner of the Boston Celtics, correct?
I was. For 5 years, I was an LP. I was actually the third or fourth largest by shares owner in there. It was an LP position, but it was pretty sizable. And, I grew up in the Boston area, so it had a little bit of relevance for me in that regard, I guess you could say. But more than anything, it gave me a lot of experience in ownership, because David Stern was the one who told me to do that. He said, go do it. I said, I don't want to be a part owner. I want to be the owner.
Right.
And he said, no, you need to go and do this. You never know when that opportunity is going to come about, and go get the experience. You'll meet other people in ownership. You'll meet other team, exec personnel around from the league, and you'll learn. And it was the greatest piece of advice I ever got, actually. And I try to tell other prospective owners, governors, whatever you want to call them, I try to give them that piece of advice, which is a really good thing to get in with a good organization, spend a few years as a part owner, and just observe, because it's not the biggest business in the world, but it's a very complex business.
Yes.
Really a lot to it.
Yep. Now go back to how that opportunity came about. Even before the opportunity, how do you put yourself in a position to even become part owner? How do you acquire the wealth? Take me all the way back. I know you have a bioscience degree, a master's of public health, as well as MBA. So, how did you acquire your wealth?
Well, I grew up in a place called New Bedford, Massachusetts. I don't know if any of you guys know where it is. It's not a great place. And in fact, it still is not a great place. I went back in 2019 and I was like, I ain't going back there again. But I grew up, I was the first person to ever have college education in my family. I really didn't have any head start by any means. And I just, when I was a little kid, I went to a boys club when I was 9 years old. And I'll never forget it. It's still there, the New Bedford Boys and Girls Club, I think they call it now. But, and I saw hardwood floor, first time I'd ever seen it, basketball. I'd never actually seen a hardwood floor. And I was like, just amazed by that. I tell that story today because it's like the few moments in your life you remember, certainly you just remember like they were yesterday. That's a long time ago for me. But I remember that, and I just have this love of basketball. I always played, but I was, let's be honest, not so great. I played high school basketball. That's about it. And, but I from the day I was a kid, the Celtics were great, and that had an influence on me. And in the 60s, a long time ago, and I kind of always wanted to own a team. And so all through my life, whatever I did, I went to school, good education, biology and chemistry. I wound up working after college, I got a master's in public health and epidemiology, of all things. Came back to be useful later on. And that was from UCLA. And then I worked for a few years in healthcare, Andre, in healthcare services business, because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And, bachelor's and a master's. And I kind of realized all of a sudden, by the way, I tried to get into medical school and I failed to get in. I was a great student, I thought, but apparently not good enough. I just didn't get in. And that shocked a lot of my friends, my family, me. It was a big failure in my life. But I wound up working in healthcare, and I realized that I don't think I would have been a good doctor anyway. I've been a bad doctor. I don't think I had enough caring for people at that level. I mean, I'm being honest. And so what I realized, though, was I was pretty good at sort of interacting with people and management and stuff like that. And so I decided to apply to business school. I didn't know anything. I didn't even know what an MBA was, to be honest, at that point. I was very science-oriented. But I walked into this is a funny story. I walked into the GMAT, which is the test you go for business school.
Yep.
And whereas I did pretty average on the MCATs for medical school, I walked into the GMAT without any prep. And like I'm sitting there 30 minutes before everyone else, I'm done with them. I'm like, what's we doing? And I got a perfect score on it. So
wow.
It tells you, like sometimes that's what you're good at,
Right, right.
And I wound up getting into every business school. I played to like 5 and I got into it, but I went to Stanford, which was a dream come true for me because I always loved the school. I applied as an undergrad, did not get in. So here's, I got into business school, went into the biotech industry, Andre, in the 80s when it was just really taking off. And it was really great to be in an industry that was kind of exploding at the time. And I was the right person at the right time because I had a lot of science background. And then I had an idea to start a company. It was around 86, 87. And I brought it to various venture firms, and one of them liked it a lot, called Kleiner Perkins.
Yep.
They dragged me on for a year without giving me funding, me and the other guy. They then ultimately funded the company, but they told me they didn't want me to go to work as the CEO of the company. I was 30 years old. And they wanted me instead to come join Kleiner Perkins as an associate.
Yep.
For a couple of years. I said, I don't want to do that. That's not, I want to be the CEO. I want to run, this is what I want to do. And they said, well, no, this is what we want you to do. And your buddy here is going to go be the CEO. And I said, all right, I'll do this for a couple of years. That was my interaction. And ultimately, it was the best thing I ever did. I wound up being really good at it. I just was real good at starting biotech businesses and biomedical businesses. I started a whole bunch of companies with entrepreneurs who came to us, or in some cases, ideas that I developed.
Yep.
And I was in the right place where we were really good at that as a firm. And I wound up staying at Kleiner Perkins, being asked to stay, and I stayed for 30 years doing that. And I made a lot of money. So to answer your question. Meanwhile, my great love in life became sort of a reality, which is, hey, I could maybe afford to buy an NBA team.
Right.
In the 90s, I made a lot of money. And so I started looking and trying to buy, and went on for years and was unsuccessful at several opportunities until I wound up buying into the Celtics in 05 maybe. And then ultimately the chance came when the Warriors were for sale. This is where my kids had grown up. It's where I've been living for 40 years, the Bay Area now, 40 years now. And the Warriors were sort of a great opportunity, And so I was going to win that no matter what, and we did.
And you weren't the only group to bid for the Warriors at that time. It was another bid that was those two really competing against each other. Was that Larry Ellison from Oracle?
Yeah, there were actually several billionaire type of owners, guys who are richer than me, by the way. And that was pretty scary. But Larry Ellison being the most formidable of them, there were a couple of others as well. They dropped out as the bidding went forward. It was a process run by a boutique investment bank that was hired by the seller. And it came down to Ellison and us. And by the way, everyone thought, including Ellison, that the thing was going to sell for, at the time now, maybe low threes.
Right.
And that was considered a lot for a team that was losing a lot of money and not doing well on the court either.
Right.
And Larry Ellison's a competitive guy. He really thought this is BS. Like, this shouldn't be this high. But I kept bidding because I figured this is my only shot, and I really wanted it. And when you want something really bad, I just decided it was the perfect opportunity for me So it got to 400 on the bidding, and it was just Ellison left and me and Peter, actually, at that point. He refused to bid any further.
Oh, okay.
And I said, and so they wanted me. I said, well, I'm not going to bid against this guy. I don't know what the number is. So I said, I want to meet the owner, which is a guy named Chris Cohan.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, well, he's not meeting anybody. He's not involved in the sale process per se. And I said, well, then I'm out. And they couldn't have me be out.
Yeah.
Right.
Because then Larry could dictate. And he's a very powerful guy.
Yeah.
Yes.
And if he could dictate the terms, they didn't want that to happen. So I said, well, the only way I'm going to stay in the bidding is if I meet him in person and get to talk to him. And so they said the next day I could meet him in Baltimore. Here we are in the Bay Area. And his kid was in a lacrosse tournament in Baltimore. He said, you can meet him in Baltimore. The next day, you have to fly across the country to meet him. And I said, I'll do it. And I went and met with him for 3 hours. And I told him, basically, here's the plan thing. I said, hey, look, I'm the guy you want to buy this team, not Larry Ellison. I told him all the reasons why. He didn't really want Larry to win it because he was scared, I think, that he might get pushed around by Larry. And maybe there are other reasons as well. I don't know. But anyway, I kind of knew that. And I said, look, I'll buy it, but you got to name the number. I don't want to do this bidding thing. You name the number and I'll tell you yes or no. And he said, well, and it was a little bit of a trick, but I said, that's the only way I'm staying involved. They wouldn't do it. The next day, though, they called. I thought we had lost it. I thought we were done. The next day they called and said, okay, fine. What we'll do it. What's the number? And I said, first I had to give me a number, and they said 440 million. Now we're already at 400 in the bidding. This is like a huge jump. And I said, I won't do it. And there was silence, absolute silence. But I said, but I will do 450.
Oh, wow.
I like that.
Under other terms that mattered to me, they said I had to put $20 million down, non-refundable. I said, I'll do that. Under any circumstances, it's non-refundable. It's a lot of money for anybody, by the way.
Yeah.
Right.
And I said, but here's the thing. I want the whole deal papered in 3 days, 72 hours. They said, well, it can't happen that way. I said, no, I'm not doing it then. You get yours. They don't go to sleep. We get papered. So it's an actual contract.
Yep.
And so the reason I wanted that is because I knew that Larry Ellison could come in over the top.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to see that happen. So anyway, they did get it done. We did get it done. And that's how we got the team.
So once you got the team done and everything, what was your energy going into Focus? Obviously, it's like 12 years ago, and you're part of the ownership with the Celtics. Was the 2008 championship like something that really drove you?
Yeah, I do have a ring, by the way.
Yeah, and almost had one in 2010 too. Yeah,
just to be clear.
You almost had one with the 2010 Celtics as well, right?
Almost, but no, they didn't win.
Yeah, but so when you went over and you crossed over to the Warriors, were you like, hey, I'm going to build my own quote unquote Celtics, or I'm going to bring back the energy to fill it?
Evan, you have to understand where I came from and my background a little bit. My goal in life was to do this forever. It's all I cared about. I was going to do it someday. That was my.
I believe you.
That's just how I was. I mean, I love venture capital. I love building companies. I love a lot of things. But at the end of the day, I love basketball, and I wanted to do it was just my goal. So I thought about it for years and years and years and how I would do it. I had seen the Celtics, how they operated for 5 years. I had actually been involved in the 90s, and I was the largest owner of the ABL, which is the American Basketball League, a women's professional league.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Okay, the snaps.
WNBA, they beat us out. They had more money. But I was the largest owner of that. So I had some experience, and I knew what I wanted to do in terms of probably more than most people, because I'd also started a lot of companies. I knew how to hire management. I just knew what I wanted to do. Now, it doesn't mean I was going to be successful, but I thought I was going to be successful. So and I had Peter Gruber with me, who's a great partner, who everything that I didn't have his experience. I'm not an entertainment guy. He is. So we had our joint experiences, I think, were really good and complementary. So from day one, I think we knew what we wanted to do. And I thought, like a lot of people who buy basketball teams, that I could do it better than current ownership, right? Everyone thinks they can. That's why sports is exciting. That's why sports, people have talk radio. I mean, they all think they can do it better. And they should think that. But in our case, I really believed it. And so we had a plan from day one, all the things we were going to do. And we went and operated off of that.
You think your situation with the biotech, you're telling us about how you wanted to run a company, then they they force you to be a board member for a couple of years. You think to a certain extent, I know you played basketball in high school, but you think that taught you teamwork on a higher level on top of just patience prior to this moment? Because at the end of the day,
venture capital firm that I was at the time was considered the best in the world.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we had, we were the early money, the first institutional money in Amazon, the first institutional money in Google, the first, okay? $10 million checks, we're the only checks. So not only we make a lot of money from those things, and a lot of other firms that you've heard of, but I got to see a lot of companies that became successful, a lot of founders and entrepreneurs, and a lot that failed. So I feel like I've seen almost everything over that 25, 30 years. And so, a lot of what venture capital is and starting companies and building businesses is what I like to say is sort of pattern matching.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You see it and you know what it is when you see it, and you know what it ain't when it ain't. And so I've had a lot of experience building companies. It wasn't just, basketball. It was a lot of others, and they all relate. They had a lot to do with our success. And a lot of things we did here are things that no other, to be honest with you, NBA team does or did. Maybe they're starting to now. We've got a lot of owners that are similar to me. They're starting to come into the business. But at that time, I think we were pretty out there and pretty aggressive and doing things in ways that maybe other people didn't do. Just culture building. I have an attitude about hiring management. I believe our management's the best in the world at any sports team. Andre can, comment on whether he thinks that's true or not. But I really do believe that, and we always hire. We never don't hire the best. It's just an attitude. People can talk about it, but a lot of them don't do it. We do it.
I think that's one thing that I've learned in tech that I think you are doing a hell of a job at, and you just said it. In tech, you won't be successful unless you have the best talent. The best talent always win. And you got to be able to find that. And that's every level, not just talent on the court, but talent in the front office as well. Like, you got to have a good team. So, your background says you know how to identify the best talent. But at the same time, there is an issue in tech, I think, with diversity. So you being in tech for so long, how do you think we improve those numbers with diversity in the C-suites, on the board seats, and in the same way, it was leading up to my next question. You bought the team for $450. The team's worth 5.6 right now. I don't want to ask who deserved credit because we all played a hand in it. We all play a hand in it. Like the Patriots have a crazy valuation because of the success and the way they run the team. So yes, it's all combined. But at the same time, how do we promote, players being more active, post-retirement around the CBA with having a stake in the team, as well as how do we do better with diversification, not diversification, but just getting more minorities, more folks of color into the tech space as well. It's kind of a loaded question, but, just give me your thoughts. It's a very loaded question.
You've asked me a lot of questions just now.
Yeah, my apologies,
because I'm sorry, and follow up, because you saw the LeBron tweet 3 or 4 years ago back when you all were, I think, valued at 4.2 or something. And he was like, I think Steph Curry should get half. What did you think in that sense? That's what you're asking, right, Dre? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're asking me another question.
My bad. So it's all the same.
Let me just say right off. The team has to be successful to a large extent for the business to be successful, but that's it by itself is not enough.
Correct.
So you have to hire people everyone knows what Steph Curry does, and he is so incredibly important. Like, we wouldn't be here today without him, no question.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But what people don't see is an incredible amount of hard work, and for a lot less compensation, that the business people do in building a business like this to make everything actually happen. Mm-hmm. It doesn't happen by itself. So, and that's something that it's just not understood by sports media, as you might imagine, right? They don't look at that.
Right.
That is really a big part of helping the job that Brandon Schneider does, or the job that I could name any number of people in the business, really, really important to help make the company successful, So back to what you were talking about, Andre. Two things. Basketball, there is a lot of diversity, and now getting to be more, particularly at the coaching level where it so obviously should have been and was not. Yes. Now we have 15 coaches?
It's half. Yep, it's half. Yep.
is I'm very proud of. I think we should all be proud of. That's making some real progress. And it was absolutely overdue, and certainly in other sports, even more overdue.
Yes.
So look, it's really, really important. But everybody needs to, you can't just go from being an athlete to you are an ultimate example of a guy that has done really well crossing over to investing and so on. But it's not so simple that you can just like have 30 years of experience, right? You got to put in the time. You got to work for good people and learn. And I'm talking about in sports or in tech. Tech has a particular problem. You're right. It is they do have a lack of diversity. I've noticed it. We've noticed it for years. Why is that? I don't know. I guess it's because a lot of the people that get hired, a lot of these firms come out of the Harvards and the Princetons and the places like that. And I think, at least in past years, maybe the diversity hasn't been there. Maybe it is now. I don't know. But they tend to come from places like people hire the best, and they think the best is a Harvard person, right? It isn't always. I didn't go to Harvard, by the way. I went to UC Irvine. It's no big fancy school. But so I think diversity is something we have to work hard at. We have to do. I know we try really hard at the Warriors to do that. And I think, we need to do a better job, certainly in certain areas, but I think in a lot of the areas we're doing really well. We're making a lot of progress. And to me, the most important thing you can do as a manager, as an owner of a business, a CEO of a business, is to hire the best person you can, but also that person has to hire the best person he can.
Yes.
Or she.
Yes.
You need to have levels. You need to keep bringing up the young people and training them. So what was really important in the first days is when I put my son Kirk, I said, go buy this team in North Dakota and we're going to build a Santa Cruz. We're the third guys to own our G League team. Third one. Now everybody does.
Right.
That was 10 years ago.
Yep.
Why is that important? Not for the basketball only, which is now over 50% of players that play in the NBA play in the G League. But what's important is we train management too.
Yes.
On the basketball operations side.
Yeah, I see it.
And on the business side. And we've got we're doing really, I think if you know who those guys are today.
Yeah, those are my guys.
We're promoting diversity to the extent we can there. That's really important that they get the experience at a place like Santa Cruz. Then they move to the Warriors, right? And they move up and they get higher and higher positions. So you have to learn and pay your dues. You can't just promote somebody overnight, when they haven't had the experience. So it does take a little time, unfortunately, to do this. But I think we do need to be better at it. In tech for sure. I'm not as involved in tech as I was, but that industry, needs to make a lot bigger strides.
Yes, sir.
Did you have the bigger picture mindset? Like, take us back to 2012. I think you obviously remember one of your first couple years owning the team. Chris Mullin's jersey retirement. The fans at Roracle weren't the happiest because you traded some of their favorite players like Monte Ellis, Andrew Bogut. During that time, when you were getting booed, were you kind of sitting there? Because you seem like a confident guy. You kind of see the patterns of things. Were you kind of don't worry, this all is going to pay off. Everything's going to work. No?
No. Nobody was booed by 20,000 people.
That's real.
No, that was real, dude. I was there practically crying. Being honest. That hurt. That hurt a lot. And my wife was sitting over there. She had tears coming down her eyes. My kids were sitting there. That was a pretty... one of the most awful things I've ever been through in my life. Athletes, maybe you're used to getting booed on the court. It happens when you go to a foreign arena, right?
Yeah. No, we played in Philly, so it happened on the home end road.
Yeah, home end road. Yeah. Once you leave college, it's damn near all your fault, except for 8 people in the league. Why breathe?
But who a business guy like me? You're not used to being booed by 20,000 people.
Right.
Yeah.
That was one of the hardest things I've ever had to overcome. But I have a thick skin, to be honest. I grew up pretty tough. My environment, I made it from nothing. And so it's going to take more than booing it.
I know, for sure. It's just damn, was that me? And then it's
And by the way, I didn't say much about it at the time, but my attitude was, I'll show these MFers,
Yeah, that's real.
That's the right way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we have, although I'm not going to be the one to say it.
No, y'all done y'all thing. That's an understatement. That's an understatement.
So, go on. Let's talk. We had a segment, some weeks. One of our podcast topics were arenas and public versus private funding. And I think you've been able to build this amazing arena called Chase Center, and all that you went through. I think, like you said, most people don't see the ins and outs of how some things work on the ownership business side. So kind of walk us through, how you went about funding Chase Center. What were your thoughts on private? What were your thoughts on public? The pros and cons of both. And what were you thinking in terms of taking it to San Fran versus, what were your thoughts on keeping it in Oakland, and how did you come up with the ultimate plan?
You love to ask a lot of questions in your one question.
No, you're just so good at. I've heard you explain it before, so I want you to just paint the picture for us, and I want to get out your way.
Let me just briefly say, as far as Oakland and San Francisco, there was no original. Everyone says we had a plan right from the day one, Peter Gruber and me, to move to San Francisco. Absolutely not true.
I believe you. Yeah, I believe that.
No, I'll tell you. I swear to God, not true. We went to the mayor of Oakland, and I said, "What can we do here?" And I tried. I had 5 meetings with that mayor at the time. Mm-hmm. I couldn't get. It was like dealing with, I don't even know what word to use. Just completely no response, no feedback, no nothing, like zero. Mm-hmm. And so I said, let's open up this, let's look at other places, because we're not getting anything done here. And so I went to San Francisco as well, and he was much more receptive. The mayor at the time, he died, of course, but to the whole process. And when it all said and done, San Francisco was an easier path than Oakland. It was just not an obvious thing to do in Oakland. They didn't even come up with any ideas. So San Francisco suggested a location. We ultimately failed at that location on the waterfront. It was a public piece of land. But I quickly realized, and I've always thought this, I know that sports teams are told to go get public money to build stadiums and arenas by the commissioner. And look, if you can, as a business person, you certainly should try. Mm-hmm. And again, maybe certain cities that works, you can make the argument it helps the community. But I got to tell you, for the most part, it's just a lot more work than it's worth, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And I would rather, so we immediately from day one, I said, forget, in California, it's not going to happen anyway. We're going to spend years. Oh, by the way, look at the Oakland A's. Here we are 18 years into it. He's got nothing done. Why bother? Let's just do it privately. It'll cost more. We'll have more control over the site. And we'll get it done earlier. Well, here we are in the most difficult place to build in the world, probably, San Francisco. Right. And in 7 years, which is a long time, but 7 years total from beginning to end, we got it done, we built it, and with not. Every time they finally suggested maybe a little public money we could get from this or that, I said, no, zero, nothing. And I wanted to be able to say that I didn't take away $1 from police, fire, all the things, essential activities. I love saying that. I love saying we didn't take $1 from those people. And in fact, we started a foundation that gives back, and a lot of it. So that was important, I think, to us. And it was the greatest decision I've ever made, actually, on the team, was to go private 100%. Now, it became an incredibly difficult thing to do because the costs kept going up. You remember the economy was going great in the Bay Area at the time? Yes. Production costs were going. It wound up costing us twice what we thought it was going to cost. And if you want to see a grown man cry, you could watch Peter and I sit in a room just about crying, like, how are we going to we're going to be embarrassed. How are we going to pay for this? Yeah,
you know how contractors do, though.
They're not that rich. And the amount of money that was involved in this project, all told, was $2.1 billion with the, with the arena. We bought the land, we own the land. We built these office buildings to help defray some of the costs, but that's an investment up front to help do that. Right. It was $2.1 billion in up front, and it was twice what it was supposed to be. And let me tell you something. It is like a very scary thing when you don't have the money and you've got to figure out how to do that. Mm-hmm. So we came up with what I think is one of the greatest achievements of our ownership in this team. Some of the most brilliant financing strategies to get this done that I've ever seen. And I've been involved in financing all my life. We took a big risk. We raised $300 million from our customers who were fans. In the baseball, they've done seat licenses, but in basketball, it's never really happened. Right. I remember that. We did it because our fans love us. Mm. We took a risk that they would do us. And that's $300 million of it. It's not a seat license, but it's a membership, like a golf course membership. We pay the money back in 30 years. So it's it's like an interest-free loan. Think of it that way. Yep. And that was a brilliant structure no one had ever done. And one of our guys inside, Marty Glick, who you may know, Andre, came up with this concept, and it is brilliant. So that's $300 million. We then took the office buildings. We signed up Uber, was a growing firm, and they wanted to be part owner. But we said, well, we want to own those office buildings, but you know what? If you want to buy one of the two, half of it, you can. So they gave us $200 million to own it, half of that. Mm-hmm. We had paid for the land all told 160. I mean, so that got us our land costs back. Think of it that way. There was another $200 million. Then we were making a lot as the team was getting better. And this is where Andre and Steph and all you guys that performed on the court really helped us. We were able to sell tickets better and better and sponsorships. And we were going, and in Oakland, our last year, we did about 500 million in revenue. When I bought the team, we were 100 million in 2010. So in 5 years, we 5 times it, which is pretty amazing. Tremendous job by our business people. Obviously, great job on the court is why we're able to do it. And we made a lot of profits, and we never distributed $1 profits to me or Peter. I've never taken a dime, ever, of all the money profits we've made. We have basically, all of it went back into building that arena. So we put, hundreds of millions of dollars of profits into that arena. So that, along with a bunch of debt, we have the largest debt of any team in the NBA, but we did it at the right time, and we got fixed 30-year financing like you do on a house. Right. Under 4%. Looks pretty good.
Yeah. It's a great percentage. Yeah. Now,
so when you add it all up, we wound up being able to pay for this without doing a capital call from our investors and without raising any capital. And people look at me and say, how could that possibly be done? But we did it. So, it's honestly one of our greatest achievements. And that's why other teams, when I hear they can't do it, they need to be more creative. They need to work harder. They need to be smarter.
Right. And at the same time, building an arena, you want to fill it up as much as possible. So talk to me about how you build that energy and you build up Chase Center to be the go-to place for entertainment and performances. What's your thoughts and, how you brand Chase Center?
Well, it all started at Oracle. That was an old arena, but it was we obviously in the last few years built some fantastic experiences we all had together there.
Yes.
And we learned a lot about, how to sell our tickets better, how to start selling sponsorships. That's the one area people don't talk about with an NBA team. They talk about tickets, but partnerships or sponsorships with companies. We thought that's the place we had an advantage being in Silicon Valley. Mm-hmm. But when I bought it, single digit revenue, we had like $2 million in partnership revenue. And today we do more than twice any other team. We're like 160 million. Mm-hmm. It's incredible. And we got some people that are incredible at doing their job. So we keep doing those deals, and that really helps us a lot as well. But we've just gotten really good at all of the tickets is that's the easiest part to some extent. Yep. But the sponsors, we always had fans, but the sponsorships and then our very novel suites. If you've gone through Chase Center, we designed it in a way that we copied something. We always copy some. Remember I said pattern matching?
Yes, sir.
Always pattern match something. There's always a good idea somewhere else that you can use. And so we looked at every arena. We looked at Madison Square Garden, and they had these great courtside lounges.
Yep.
Down underneath the lower bowl. And they're not ideal the way they do it. It's hard to get to them and stuff. We said, we can do that. We can do it a little better. So we designed our arena with 32 of them. And those things are money makers for us. They're fantastic. Generate a lot of revenue. And everyone loves them. We have sold every one of them. And they're all inclusive. No one's ever done it before. And we honestly, 1.5 to 2 million per year for those things that people pay. Now they get the right to concerts and everything else, but that was another genius idea and a genius plan to how we would do it by some of the people in-house. Really great job. So I give a lot of credit to the people, Steph Curry and Andre Iguodala and Clay and everyone on the court. We would not be here today without them being successful on the court, but also incredible amounts to all the guys that run sponsorships, the guys that run tickets, like Brandon Schneider and John Bevan, and just the guys, they're the best in the business in what they do. And I love them. And I make sure we always hire the next level guy, train them so that we can promote them too.
Does that make you not regret your Lightyears comment that you said, a little while back? How does it go? It says, we crushed them on the basketball court and we're about to crush, and we're going to crush for years because of the way we built this team. We're light years ahead of probably every other team in structure and planning and how we go about doing things. Is that energy still the same? Do you still believe that because of, how well you get every single day?
Well, I was taken out of context when I said that. To be honest, he wasn't supposed to say this. The New York Times mag, because he'd be very careful if you do something for the New York Times magazine.
Talk to him.
Just be careful. Because, they pull out, it's like with social media today, everyone pulls out that one line. That's what they work off, right? They have this, they get clicks. And in this case, look, I did say it, Evan.
Yes.
I'm not going to sit here and deny what I did say that. I meant it kind of in a different way. I didn't mean to be derogatory towards other teams. But do I believe that we are, I do, yes. Just like I believe our team, our players today, I was asked, are we going to win this series against Boston? And I said, I do believe, I think we're better. And I think we're going to win. Yeah. And Rick Kostek, the owner of the Celtics, who's a friend, came up to me during the middle of the series. I don't think he was too happy with me. He said, so you think you're better? And you said it to the press that you're going to beat us. I said, well, yeah. I believe in my team. Do you believe in your team?
That's real. Right. Sometimes that type of honesty.
I'm not being arrogant.
Oh, no, of course. It's the truth, but it's the truth. You know what you know, so it is what it is.
Well, I'm not, about the Lightyears thing, I am not going to sit here and say, damn right. I'm not doing that. Yeah. But let other people be the judge, Yeah. I really believe in our organization. And, the proof's in the pudding a little bit. Yeah. You
should have played Wick one-on-one if you really had a problem. You know what I mean? I would have loved to see that.
No, look, but I'm a confident guy.
Yeah, as you should be.
And just like to be a great player, you have to be pretty damn confident.
Yes.
You don't think, like golf. If you don't think that putt's going in,
it ain't going in.
Right.
Of course.
Same with basketball. You shoot that ball. If you don't think it's going in, it's not going in. Well, let me tell you something. If you don't think you're the best, then you aren't going to be the best. You're not going to be able to perform in business either.
That's real.
100%. Now moving on to these two timelines. I've had a good amount of conversations about this all year with the press, and same thing happens. Your words get taken out of context. We got a group of guys that started with Steph Curry. He was at the top of the pecking order, and we've been able to go on this great run. But then we have this amazing young core that's developing at a fast pace. And I try to tell people all the time, don't rush the young kids, but at the same time, don't forget who Steph Curry is, because he's so great. And we're so used to instant gratification. We're so quick to try to find what's next so we can gratify them instantly when they come on. So I always say be patient with everything. But we got Poole, who's had an amazing year. I just read his stats. I didn't realize he averaged 18 points this year. Like, that's a lot of points in the NBA as like the fourth option, fifth option. Like, that's,
exactly. In his third year, by the way.
Yeah, that's crazy.
This kid's, I told him the first day I saw him, listen, man, I was afraid of you coming at me one-on-one. I don't think you know how good you are. Like, you're that good. And for him to be able to work his way to where he is, and obviously Kuminga has got all the talent in the world. We know if he can just line up everything the way he should.
Tell our coach that, so he plays him.
Well, Kuminga's got to do his work too. It works on both sides. So
I'm kidding.
Kuminga's next to me, Draymond, myself, and Looney. We're on him constantly. But I think the sleeper is Moses Moody. And Moses is 19 years old, but he thinks like he's 26. So we forget him sometimes, and we say, he's fine. But it's like, he's so mature that you tend to forget about him. But this kid can fill it up. I think he's going to have an amazing summer league. And then, the NBA, how it is, they'll forget about you when you're hurt. And Wiseman is such he's probably got the highest ceiling. But, with big man, you got to give him a chance. So just talking about the two timelines, and the group we got now, and trying to get the most out of them, and being responsible with the salary cap and the tax. But at the same time, getting these young kids ready to, be ready to take off, when the time's perfectly right. And all that's this crazy, algorithm / equation we trying to piece together. Just give me your thoughts on, how you're trying to navigate through all that, because that's a lot.
It is a very ballsy strategy, I would say. Yeah, I agree with you. And look, I didn't get here by cowering and being not going for the jugular. I got here, and Peter got here because we took risks. And look, going against Larry Ellison, that strategy was very risky. The way I tell the story, because it was a very risky strategy to beat out one of the richest men in the world. I tell the strategy because other things, like when you back Steph Curry, like people don't remember, but he was great. But he also had a lot of ankle problems.
Yeah, you gave him $48 million. Yeah,
right. Turned out to be great for us. Yeah. But we were taking a little bit of risk at the time too. So I look back at all the things you have to take some risk. You can't just do what everyone else is doing. And everyone wanted us at the beginning of the year, I know, to trade all these young players, these draft choices, and to go get one more guy, one more established over 30 kind of star who might be injured, might have been injured, frankly, because over 30, you tend to get injured more than you do in your 20s, right? So there's a little more risk. I mean, I know what we did was a little bit risky, but I believe, and Bob Myers believed, that if we were going to win this year, how far we're going to go was going to be determined by how good Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green, and obviously the rest of the guys. But those three guys, where the money is. That's where the money is. If they weren't good enough, then we're not going to be good enough. And so no ad we're going to make is going to make that, I don't think, that much of a difference. And so at the end of the day, what we don't want to do, in my belief, is I run a business here.
Yes.
My job is to not, the one thing I cannot and will not stand for is not to be competing for championships. And I don't want to go off a cliff like other teams do when they go really all in. Yeah. And they got no young players, no draft choices. Yeah. I just don't think that's a good strategy. You're going, the odds are, what are the odds, And so I felt we had enough. It's a combination of, I thought we had enough to get there, at least get Western Conference Finals. Whether we're going to win the championship or not, there's got to be some luck involved in that always too.
Yeah.
But I really wanted to make sure we kept these young players because I am a great believer with Andre and James Wiseman. And I know a lot of people, when they're not in front of them, they all think, they forget how good this guy is.
Right.
He's incredibly talented. Yep. I'm not trading him away. I'm not doing it. Let's make sure, give him his shot. Let's see. Yep. And it takes a lot longer with the big guy.
Yes.
So that's number one. This guy, our two lottery picks, Kuminga and Moody. I mean, I agree with you completely. I think they are incredibly talented. And Jordan Poole's already shown what he can do.
Yep.
Add that to Andrew Wiggins, by the way, who a lot of people criticized us for that deal. Yeah. Right?
They're like robbery now.
He was overpaid. They thought he was so overpaid, terrible. You'll never get rid of that contract. What are you doing? And we didn't believe that. We believed this guy in our system could be fantastic. Now, we were proven right like no one's ever been proven right before. The finals, without him, we don't win.
He's second best player. He's the second best player in the finals.
He was. He did what you used to do.
Right.
Which is guard the best player on the other team. His defense was so good, in my opinion, in everybody's opinion. And then offensively, he was great too. It's the best I've ever seen him play. He rebounded better than he's ever rebounded. I don't know where that came from. But my point is, he's 27 years old.
Yes, he's still young.
Wow.
So it's a huge risk to have this two-team strategy, if you want to call it that. I don't know that I refer to it quite that way, but I don't want to be bad for 6 years. I don't want to fall off a cliff. So we took a risk that we could win this title in Steph's golden years. I think he's got a number of years to go.
Yes.
And we were right. We did. We won. Amazingly. And I think we're going to be, hopefully better next year. These young guys will be better.
Yep.
Steph's still got it. I don't see him going off, I'm sorry to say, for the rest of the league. I don't see him getting any worse.
Yeah,
you never know.
Yeah, he's aging like wine. It's crazy.
He is.
Yeah.
The guy is so well conditioned. It's unbelievable.
And he got like 2 years off too, basically too.
He did.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, luckily. Yeah.
So I guess I know it was a highly risky strategy, Andre, but it worked. And now we're really set up. We won and we've got this great future potentially. I'm just really, really proud of what this team achieved. I really had hoped we could do this, but I didn't know that we could do it. And we did it. You guys did it. And by the way, this guy didn't play very much. I'm looking at it on my screen, Andre here, but I think he had a huge impact. And that does not go without notice.
I appreciate it.
Huge impact. I watch you on the sidelines. I watch you in the locker room. And, that's part of our strategy too, obviously, to get you back. I wish we never had to trade you in the first place. I'm sorry. I apologize.
No. It's business. It's business. I didn't take it personal at all. I understood the business.
But at the time, there was just no other way, it seemed like. But we got you back and we got another ring and all's good.
And you showed him your apology with doing the podcast, so we appreciate you.
Yeah, we definitely appreciate you. No. But if it was personal to me, I would have never came back. And I always tell guys, it's never personal. You know, you got to understand the business. You got to understand both sides, because if I'm sitting in your shoes, I got to make the same move. So how can I be, upset if I'm you? I'm probably making the same exact move, and it's just, you got to make tough decisions, like you said. It's, that salary cap thing is tough, and
the hardest thing of all is the navigating this luxury tax. Unfortunately,
yes.
We're really people. I went back to New York this week for labor meetings.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on the committee. And, obviously the league wants everyone to have a chance. And right now there's a certain element out there that believe, well, we quote checkbook win. We won the title because we have the most salaries on our team.
Right.
The truth is we're only about 40 million more than, than the luxury tax. Now that's not small, but it's not a massive number. We're 200 million over in total though, because most of that is this incredibly penal luxury tax. And what I consider to be very unfair, and I'm going to say it on this podcast, and I hope it gets back to whoever is listening. I think it's and obviously it's self-serving for me to say this, but I think it's a very unfair system because our team is built by top eight players are all drafted by this team.
Yeah, all bird rights.
Right. And we have three other guys that were undrafted and we found and developed in Santa Cruz. Yeah. Okay. We have not one free agent that isn't a minimum.
Right.
Not one. All minimums, the guys we brought in this year. Yeah. So the only guy that you could, make a case for us outspending the competition, not being fair, is that we turned the Durant leaving into one guy that turned into Wiggins, and that worked out great. But they all criticized us for doing it, said we was overpaid, you did a bad deal. So
there you go.
I mean, can't have it both ways.
Yeah, just light the cigar.
It's penal because we are self-developed, homegrown team. We really are. Other than the Durant acquisition, in my 12 years, that's the only time we went and got Andre too. But was that free agent or trade, really?
That was a sign and trade. So it's still my bird rights was still it was sign and trade. Yeah.
And plus, that was a startup too. Like you guys were getting the culture right.
I understand when they got mad at us for the Durant thing, but anyone else could have done it too if you wanted to go there. Is the truth. Yeah. And this one, I don't know how they can be mad. They're homegrown. And I think the luxury tax, you should be paying a high luxury tax if you're using it to go with, and get free agents and outspend your competition. Right. But if you're developing your own guys and paying Steph Curry what he deserves, right, and Klay Thompson what he's earned, why am I paying $200 million in luxury tax? I don't think that's fair.
That's real.
Get your shit off.
No, that's real. That's you should what you just explained to me today and everything, unbelievable, legitimate, unbelievable. So
going forward, you're very competitive. You've explained that. What are your ultimate goals? Where do you see the team in the next 5 years, the next 15 years, and then going forward in terms of, we talk about generational wealth. I'm asking a loaded question again, but what are your goals, going forward with the franchise?
Well, look, I've made enough money, so my goals are not about money. Some people want to make more money. Yeah, we all like making money. We want to live comfortably. We want to, have our future generations be helped. But the truth of the matter is, I'm about only one thing the rest of my life, and that's winning and winning championships. I'm maniacal. It's all I care about. That's it. And we've done really well. We've won 4 in 8 years, which is incredible. We made 6 finals in 12 years, which, by the way, there was somebody else that did this as an owner, Jerry Buss. I look up to him. 33 years of ownership, 16 finals.
Wow.
So that 50% rate is I don't know that we can continue that, but I'm sure as hell going to try. Right. That's my goal. That's my goal, is to have this team be great. I think it's great for the community. People love it. I have so many people come up and say how it makes their life on a daily basis. They enjoy following the team. And, that's how I was as a kid and when I was younger. And so that's what matters to me. And I want to develop, great young talent, both on the business side and the basketball side. I think that's important to give something back in that regard. But my goal really is to continue with this team and winning. And I'm going to do whatever it takes to do it.
Well, Joe, man, I really appreciate the time, man. You really just gave us a lot of great knowledge. I think most folks don't really get a chance to see ownership groups like in this type of setting where, they just speak their mind, they speak freely. And most folks see you, the narrative is pretty much given by someone else. And I think this is a perfect opportunity. And I think you just did a perfect job of really showing us who you truly are, a competitor, self-made. We hear that word self-made a lot, but you've proven it. And what I appreciate the most is you explaining your failure, failing to become a doctor. But, you sat next to Jay-Z a few times. I was so happy to see Jay-Z. I haven't been able to tell you that, but, I think the culture and our royalty, Black royalty, just having them in our building means so much to me. So I saw Kanye there this year. I saw Jay-Z there this year.
I make a real effort to get people like that to sit next to me.
It's all beautiful.
I want to meet them and I want to learn.
Yeah.
These guys are great, tremendous, have achieved in their fields tremendously.
Yep.
Jay-Z, Kanye. I mean, I could go on. I had Prince sit next to me.
Yeah, Prince was dope. Yeah. Steve Stout was there.
Yeah. All these guys.
Yeah.
And so, that's really, I learned from that, and we really, it's important to have them visible too, guys like that. In our arena.
And I'm saying all that to say, just Jay-Z's line on it's not a loss, it's a lesson. A loss ain't a loss, it's a lesson. And I think you epitomized that with failing to become a doctor, but then perfecting, business school, all these things we can learn from. So really appreciate the time. Really appreciate, giving us your morning. And, I always tell the guys, we locked in for life. 4 championships is a lot. So, you've kind of inspired me to, just keep on with the long journey. Like you're spot on saying it takes a while to get to where you're at, and understanding it doesn't
happen overnight. You got to work hard.
You got to keep working.
But I appreciate your comments, Andre. And so, are you coming back next year?
Oh man, y'all want me to come back?
Dre says he wants $28 million.
You should be talking about that. He's not getting. I can assure you.
Yeah, I think so.
Keep it real.
I mean, you dropped $20 million for the team right away. You might be able to throw that into get it back 30 years later. You got to be creative, right? You got to be creative.
I got to pay all these young guys, man.
I hear you.
No, but really appreciate the time, man, and thanks for stopping in. And I'll see you soon, man. I'll see you very soon.